Hey, good afternoon. Gas is back. You've got gas again. Whether you want it, I hope you do want it. But hey, welcome back to Gas. Gas, the Great American Auto Scene since 1990. Your source for information, trivia, and maybe some laughter at the same time. Got a question for you. I know what I'm doing to keep the car hobby alive for the younger people, but what are you doing? Now I'm getting my kids involved. Well, I got my kids involved. Now I'm working on the grandkids. And you know what? I can get them involved without getting them in a car. Well, for example, they all need socks. I just got a pair of kid socks for the youngest grandkid. Look at that. Moon eyes. Now, contrary to what you may think, I'm not getting paid for this. I buy this stuff because I want to, and I found out my granddaughter is a car nut already. Just turned 2 years old. Now, we had given her some little car type things to play with in a ramp, and it would run down this ramp, and she was so excited about that. Then she was over at one of her parents' friend's house, and they had Hot Wheels, and she went nuts with Hot Wheels. So we bought her some Hot Wheels for her birthday, and she was so excited. So I know there's a little bit of spark, and she likes things that roll or cars. So when she plays with her cars, I got her own t-shirt. Now, again, this is not a paid endorsement of Moon, although I support Moon. I support the guys at Moon, and I like the guys. I mean, Shiggy, Chico, Bob, all the guys. I love them all. Now, so I got the shirt. Yeah. Go Moon Eyes. So they're going to be the most well-dressed kids in town. Now, the other thing I did was, even with my own sons, I got them involved in the cars while I was involved with them. In the earlier days of NSRA and so forth, my older son, who was just a little guy, didn't like sitting in a stroller. So what we would do, before all these fancy pedal car things came out, is I bought him a pedal car at a swap meet. I made it look good. Picture of it's on my page right now. I tied a rope around the steering column, put it around my waist, pulled him and told him he had to steer. He learned the basics of steering, and he was driving a hot rod, a car, at a car show. He loved it. It was great. He had a kick. And because of that, he ended up on the back cover of Western Street Rod Association's magazine when it first came out. He was part of an ad. And he was there sitting in his little pedal car. Now, I still have that pedal car some 40 years later. And I'm going to restore it again. And this time, give it to his kids, for them to play with and enjoy. Now, I also did the same thing for our other grandkids, for Peg's granddaughter and first grandson. We each got them a pedal car from Speedway Automotive a couple of years ago. They both have little Chevy Police pedal cars. They're involved with that. It got them the start. Now, whether they're interested in cars or not yet, I'm not quite sure. But we're going to bombard them with it. We're going to let them know we are part of that car hobby. And let them see the cars. Let them be part of it. Let them enjoy them the way we enjoy them. And get them involved. Now, before you say, well, my kid doesn't like, my kid, he's into these racers. Well, you know what, guys? First off, yeah, derogatory term. We all know that. But hot rodding is hot rodding. Building a car, the concept, the procedures are pretty much the same regardless of the origin of the vehicle. Now go back to the 60s in drag racing. What was one of the more popular bodies on Altereds? Well, the Fiat Topolino, a little Italian car. All right, they only used the body. There was really nothing else from Fiat that worked in racing back then. That little 500cc motor just couldn't even get you past the first 60 feet in time. But you put a V8 in it, you got yourself one hot rod, and it's a hot rod. Now, I'm saying the older folks such as myself, we broke or cut our teeth on American muscle. Why? Because that's what was around. Really, that was what was there. But I also got involved and got indoctrinated, I guess you could say, or exposed to sports cars at 5 years old. A cousin of mine gave me a ride in a TR3 or TR2 back in about 1959 or 60. And yeah, I'm that old. I couldn't see over the dashboard. But that was the most exciting drive I had ever been in. My dad had a Nash Aeroflight, and then a Studebaker, and then a little Dodge sedan. But this sports car, wow, that got me hooked. And the first sports car I could afford happened to be a TR3. And I bought that, and I loved that little car. And I've had 4 TR3s, I've had a couple of MGBs, a couple of Jags. Sports cars. I've had a bunch. More than I can count, more than I can remember. Matter of fact, I got one sitting in the garage right now from Brazil. Yeah, it's called a Puma. It's not an American car. But the technology that goes into these cars, whether it's Japanese, British, Brazilian, or wherever it's from, is basically the same concept. Hot rodding is hot rodding. Customizing is customizing. The base that you choose really doesn't matter, because the concept is what you need to accept. So when I go to car shows, I don't care where the car came from, what the make of the car is. If it's a cool car, it's a cool car. It can be a low rider, it can be a cafe style racer, a road racer style car. It can be jacked up in the rear, lowered down. I don't care. The concept, the execution, the interest, the heart is where it's at. How do we keep kids involved in cars, or get kids involved in cars? Support their ideas. Help them out. I helped out my next door neighbor and a little Datsun pickup truck, his first vehicle. Really wasn't that automotive attuned to it, but he liked the look. It was old. He lowered it down, had some patina, but it wasn't running right. So he was saying, hey, what do I do? This thing just doesn't have power. It's misfiring. I don't know what to do. I said, well, first thing you do is change the spark plugs. So he changed the spark plugs. I said, now come and get me when you're done. He did. He says, it's running better, but it's still not running right. I said, well, did you adjust the points? He goes, the what? The points. Inside the distributor on this Datsun pickup are 2 sets of points. Did you adjust them? And it's a deer in the headlights look. So I showed him how to take the distributor cap off. Real no trick there. And I showed him what the points were. We checked them. They weren't burnt. They were just worn. So a simple adjustment would be acceptable. He didn't know how to adjust them. So I went back to my garage, pulled down a dwell meter, and brought it over to him. We went online with his smartphone, found the spec, started the engine up, and I showed him where it was. I said, now this is where it should be, and this is where you're at right now. So let's adjust them. He says, well, how do I know which way to adjust them? I said, well, that number's telling me that the dwell angle is too short. So your points are not adjusted properly. Let's adjust them. Let's open them up a little bit. So we took the cap off. I brought a feeler gauge over. We adjusted them with a feeler gauge. He says, well, there's 2 sets of them. I said, yeah. In this case, it's for emissions. And the second set helps the burning process. But adjust both of them. So he adjusted both of them. Wow. Now we put the cap back on. It's running a whole lot better. Still not quite there. Well, he's on a real tight budget, doesn't have the money, so we cleaned up the contact points in the cap with a little alcohol, and we cleaned up the rotor. It was a little burnt. Filed it down, cleaned it up, put it back in, ran like a top. He wasn't aware of points. His father wasn't aware of points either. His dad, a guy in his early 40s, and this kid, 16 years old, didn't know a thing about it. but he liked the looks of the car. Well, now he knew how to tune it up. I had a spare gauge in the garage, a dual meter, so I gave it to him. I said, now you can do tune-ups on your car and help your friends. He said, well, do all cars have these? I said, no, not anymore, but yours do. And when you come across one that does, you'll have the right tool and you'll know how to do it. You'll impress your friends. Got him hooked. His next car was more of a lowered road race type Datsun, but it was still the concept, the sport, the hobby of cars. It doesn't matter what the make is. It doesn't matter where the origin is. Yep, Terry Wallace, sandpaper and go. It's all cars. Terry Wallace is watching this right now, and I met autocrossing, driving Datsuns. I had my Datsun 1200. He was looking at him. He bought a Datsun 1200 too, and we terrorized everybody. Pete Muriello, what's your point, Bob? Get the kids involved, Pete. You can do it. You got that funny looking car. You can get them involved. You can show them a Vega that's a hybrid. It burns rubber and fuel. Hi, John. How are you doing? And Eric, thanks for tuning in. So get the kids involved. Whether it's your neighbor, your own kids, your grandkids, if you got them, get them involved. Show them the fun side of cars. Show them it's not all gloom and doom. And that's what John Aton just said he did with his oldest son. We need to do that. We need to keep this hobby and the sport alive. We've lost interest in a lot of racing. A lot of it's because of the cost of racing. But there's grassroots racing. There's a lot of things that can be done on the cheap. And you can get people involved and kids involved. Do it. You'll find it benefits everybody. And you never know. My involvement in cars didn't come from my family. It came from me having a desire for it. And I worked in the auto industry for decades and really, really loved it. And you can too. You never know where it's going to take you. All right, Petey, what are you talking about here? Points, Bob. It's a pun, damn it. Yeah, okay. All right. Thanks for tuning in for GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene. We've got a regular formula edition of GAAS we're putting together right now. Randy's doing the final edits on it. We'll get that published in just a little bit. It'll be on YouTube. We'll run the link to Facebook and many other sites, including Apple iTunes, for those of you who want to listen to it while you're driving along, and many other sites like that. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, coming to you live right now from the beautiful Ventura area, and I'm headed to Irwindale. That's right, Irwindale tonight. Drag racing, the best drag racing under the lights in Southern California at Irwindale Drag Race. It's the quickest 8th mile in all of LA area. Come on out. Gates open at 4 p.m. Track goes hot at 5 p.m. We run till 10. Be part of it. See some wild animals too. I mean, kudas, barracudas, wild mustangs, fast furies, competent coronets. You never know what's going to come out. Last weekend, we had a bunch of Lamborghini SUVs racing. We had a couple of electric cars, too. Yeah, Teslas. Shutting the down. They were beating everybody. Electric cars. Whether you like them or not, they're here. They're going to stay. Come on out and watch and see how they play. Just the same. Just a little bit of whoosh as they go down the track. The tires actually make more noise going down the track than the car itself does. Come on out. Have a good time. Enjoy some good old-fashioned car fun. Irwindale Drag Strip, your place to race. We'll see you tonight at Irwindale. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You have a great day. Take care.